for the variance. Okay, you are going to calculate S squared with different numbers of inputs. And your inputs X values are coming in series. You can imagine data is coming one by one. Okay, so we wrote the X values as an array in a C program. But actually these data are coming one by one. That's why you have a for loop over there. So every time you only consider there's one more data coming in and you analyze it within your for loop. Okay, and you have a buffer which give you a space to hold the 5 latest data. Okay, so this is supposed to be the output. For example, at the very beginning, your reset is 1. That's why you can see in your C program, you have the case when I equal to 0 for a for loop, your reset value equal to 1. Okay, I value actually means the first data coming in. This one is your x1. So basically all data here your xi. Okay, so when the first data coming in, you need to put it into the buffer because the buffer is supposed to hold the 5 latest data. And now you have 2 there. Okay, and you need to calculate your variance based on that equation. So for this particular case, your n equals to 1. So you only calculate your S squared using 1 data. Okay, and then from the next one onwards, your reset is 0, means you are in the process of receiving data. So basically the second data 2 should be put into buffer also, and then at this moment your n equals to 2. So you are using 2 numbers to calculate your S squared. Okay? And so on all the way until you reach here. So basically you have your n equals to 3, n equals to 4, n equals to 5. And at this moment, your buffer is full. Okay? And then when the 6 data coming in, which is your x6, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 coming in, since you need to always remember the 5 latest data. That's why the new data coming in is going to replace the first location of your buffer. So this will be your x6. So you can see this is like x6, this is x2, this is x3, x4, x5. You see you are keeping the 5 latest data. Okay, then x7 coming in will replace this location. Then x8, x9, x10. Then again you go back the new data x11. You put it to the first location, which means your buffer is always holding the 5 latest data. Okay. And then for the next case, you have your reset equals to 1. Okay? If you don't have this, the next data coming in is supposed to occupy the second location. Correct? But since your reset, we manually give a reset input as 1. The new data will come in and replace the first location. And you just ignore the data over there, which means when you are doing your calculation, your n equals to 1. Okay? So basically here, n equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in between all these cases, n equals to 5 without any change. Okay? So this is your expected output. I'm explaining what you should have and why you have this value. Okay? So if you just substitute these values to that equation, you will get this variance value here. Okay? And how we do this by programming. So if I'm showing you the, okay, so this page, as I mentioned, these two variables, this constant and this variable are declared in the C program, right? This are something in the C program, you have it, okay? And when you declare them like this, what the processor actually does is, he go to the memory location, find a place for buffer, and also find a place for X. Okay, it doesn't draw here, but somewhere in the memory you also have your X value stored in the memory. Okay, but X are constant, so we are not interested about that, so we didn't draw it in the instruction. So when you define your buffer is actually be allocated in the memory. Okay? And originally the values inside it are all 0. Okay? The address here may not be the correct one, just an example. Okay? So basically you are reserving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words location. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You reserve this whole area as buffer 5. Okay? So you can imagine later on you need to keep changing the values inside this. Right? You need to change these values. That's why you can have this display, because here is actually printing the data inside the buffer. Understand? Okay, so basically what you need to do is, if you don't understand, let me know. I can explain one more time. Who don't understand? Everyone okay? So basically these are the constant and the variables you declare in the C program. And the question also asks you later on in your own assembly code, you need to declare two variables called CBPTR and CBCTR to hold some values that you also keep changing them. Okay? So what you also require to do is you should get two locations in the memory as well, and you name them CPPTR and CPCTR. Okay, and later you also will keep changing these values. Okay, the purpose of this is, let me see whether I have slides. Okay, so the purpose of those pointer, those two variables are, as I mentioned, you will have, this is the buffer 5 already somewhere in the memory because your C programming is given. Okay, so this buffer 5 is already in the memory. So later on, what you need to do is, when the new data coming in, you need to decide where to put this new data. For example, at the very, very beginning, everything here is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. That's the initialization states of all these locations, right? Because you have your buffer 5 equals to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. When you wrote this line in C program, it's something like this. Okay, something like this in memory. Okay? Then, when the new data coming in, the first one, 2. x1 equals to 2. you need to put it into the memory within this area. Okay? By analyzing this data, for example, you know that this is the first data. How do you know this is the first data? How do you know this is the first data? Reset is another input. Reset is telling you you should treat this data as first one. Similar like this. When reset equals 1, you should treat the data you just received as the first data. Okay, it's a fresh beginning. Yeah, I'm explaining that. Okay, so when x equals to 2, you receive a data, and at the same moment, you know that, you realize that your reset equals to 1. What you need to do is, you should treat this as the first data and only data in your memory. So, you put this one to here. Okay, that is your action item. Your action item, check the reset. If it's 1, you do this. And what else? No, we are doing this. We are in this cycle. Have you done the calculation? You haven't done the calculation. You're supposed to calculate S squared all the time, every time when you have a new data coming in. Don't think about next cycle yet. Next data is not here yet. The first data, that is step 1. You need to put this data into the memory. Then what's next? Calculate S squared. N xi minus x bar squared. How to calculate this? If you don't know n, can you calculate it? Then another step is you need to remember your n value. Okay? Always remember we are doing assembly program and you need to break down your steps into the minimum that you can do. Okay? Not like C program, just write this equation, calculate for you. No, we are not doing that. Okay? We are doing baby steps. So step 1, put this one into the memory, then keep record your n. What is the n value for this particular case? 1. So your n is supposed to be 1. Right? So once you know that, how to calculate this one? You substitute n equals to 1, but on top, you have one term only, right? Okay, let's say you finish, you calculate your S squared, you have done the first data. Then, let's say next moment, your x2 coming in. 4. Okay? Then you do something, you do exactly same what you have done for the first step. Okay, but here, once you get x2 equals to 4, means, you don't know whether this is the second or the first or the 10th or the 100th. But you know that there's new data 4. Okay? And what should you do now? You need to put this data into memory. Correct? But to know where to put this data, what information you need to know? Address. You need to know basically where was your last stop. For example, for previous data, you put your data 2 here, and you should somehow memorize this cell is already occupied. Then next time you come in, you need, once you know this one is occupied, you know the next slot is a place you should put in to the new data. Correct? Which means there must be a pointer pointing to this buffer. And this pointer is always indicating where is the last data you just stored. Okay, you need to always remember this location. Always remember this. Always remember this, so that when new data coming in, you know where to put it. Okay? And same thing for n. Okay, let's say you remember for previous case, 2 was here. And now 4 is coming. You know this is the location you should put your 4. Right? And then you do calculation. Right? Then this time, if you want to do the calculation, again, you need to know n. N now is changing. Right? So n is refreshed. N should be refreshed. What is the value for this case? What is the value of n for this case? 2. Right? In order to know that for this current moment, you should set n equal to 2, you need to remember what was the n value for the previous case. I mean for the last step, last cycle. Right? Which means this is another thing you need to memorize. Same like this pointer. You need to keep in mind where is this pointer and what is your n value, so that when next time a new data coming in, you know where to put the data and how to do the calculation. So these two things should be always remembered. You get the idea? That's why here, these two variables are required. So basically this CBPTR is the pointer that should point to the most recent stored data item. Okay? That's why you define this variable and it will be stored into here. Okay? And you have another variable called CBCTR. Basically this is your n, the value you are going to use for your calculation. So these two numbers needs to be in the memory, because when you jump into the C, okay, let me show you the code. Look at the code here. Int main, your C program, okay? In main, you define your X array, you define your buffer beginning, they are all zeros. And then, look at this for loop. For I equal to 0, I less than 12, I plus plus. If I equal to 0, what are you doing? What is this? Okay, let me save this page to this. Can you see this one? like normal C function. You define the function here. It's called ASM streaming. The only thing is this function is written by assembly and saved in another file. Okay? But this is a C function. You define like this, means you need to pass in 1, 2, 3, 4 parameters into this function. And inside this function, you need to do some calculation, data processing. And when you jump out, you actually return an integer out, right? Okay? And you see here in the for loop, you will go into either this one or this one, right? If else loop. You are going to either this one or this one. Okay? And then basically you are going to the function. Either sometimes go into here, sometimes go into here. But basically you are going to jump into the assembly function. Right? And then these are just print. Okay? Print your buffer. Okay, there's a for loop because your buffer has 5 elements, you need to print 5 times. That's why this one will run 5 times. Okay, but this is nothing but just print the data inside the buffer. Okay, then you see when you do the second time coming in, your I will change, right? So inside here, where's the I? Here. If you see that, is here and here. These are your I value. Okay? So you see for different I, basically you are taking these data and then jump into this function. Can you see that? Which means whatever assembly program you wrote in another file, you are going to run all of them when you consider one more data. You know, for example, when you just have 2, you are going to jump into this function and run whatever you write in the program, in the assembly, and then you will jump out. And the next cycle, you are going to take x equals to the second data x2. Then you go into this function, do the data processing, jump out. So your assembly program, remember, you are running all of them whenever you just consider there is a new data. Okay? And I explained just now, in the buffer, whenever you store a new number, okay, let's say here is your buffer. Okay, maybe not here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is your buffer. Originally, they are 0. Right? So when the first data coming in, you need to store into here. As I mentioned, you need to remember this pointer. And another thing you need to remember is, what is the other one? N value. N equals 1. You need to remember this value. Okay? Which means, combine together these two things, this slice and this slice. What I'm saying here is, when you finish your assembly program and you jump out of the program, and the second time you jump in, these two values should be still there. Otherwise, you cannot keep them. You are not keeping them. You forget them already. Okay? So what I'm saying here is, these two parameters or these two variables, since they keep changing, these two variables must be remained even if you jump out or jump into the assembly. Okay? Get the point? Remember this, okay? So my question is, So can we store these two values in register? Can we keep these two values in registers? Registers R0 to R12 cannot. You cannot save them in the registers because once you jump out of your assembly, as I mentioned, all your C program are actually running assembly program behind, and it's keep using all those registers. For example, your print here, they also use registers. If you save those two values in registers, they may get messed up because all the other steps. Okay, so that's why in the previous slides I said these two, as I mentioned, this is your N and your pointer, right? This is your N, this is your pointer. These two must be preserved in the memory. Okay? Because if you don't touch them, they will be there all the time. Okay? If you run other code, run other C program, as long as you don't touch these two locations purposely, the values will be always there. Okay? So that's the reason why we declare this two in the static RAM. Okay? Using .lcomm. Okay, just like the answer we did in the basic ASM basic. Okay? Get the idea why we store these two values in the memory? Okay? And same thing as your buffer. When you jump in and jump out of assembly, you want the data to be there all the time. Whichever you have stored, you want to remain them. Okay? That's why it is also in memory. Okay? So this is something I want to clarify. So did I explain this one last time? This one is basically explaining we are using these 5 locations as buffer, but actually we keep storing our data within these 5 locations. We don't go beyond it, which means when you are reaching this point, the next data coming in should go to here, not next one. Okay? Which means you need to manually reset your pointer from here to here. Remember, this pointer is always remember the latest data. Where is the latest data you just stored? Right? So let's say all these are full, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2. When new data coming in, at this moment your pointer is actually here. When you realize your pointer is here, you know next step you should go back to here. Okay? I mean, you need to manually change the value from this value to this value. Okay? And for other cases, here you are basically just keep increasing by 4. This one is increasing by 4, plus 4, plus 4, plus 4, plus 4. But once you reach the last slot, you shouldn't plus 4 anymore. You should reset it to the first location. Okay? So it behaves like a circular buffer. It's not physically like that, but logically like that. Okay? So you need to do the reset, pointer reset when you are here. Okay? Yeah. Why we plus 4? Because each data is occupying how much space? 4 bytes, 1 word, 32 bit. Okay? So this is the address for bytes. Okay, this is the address for bytes. Each byte has its own address. Okay, so basically this explains one moment when you are here. Basically this is in time. Here is in time. So at time 1 you only have 2, time 2 you have 2, 4, and here time 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Time 8 you have this, which means inside the buffer you actually have 4, 10, 10, 4, 2. Okay? You have 4, 10, 8, 10, right? 4, 10, 10, 4, 2. And your pointer is actually pointing here. Your pointer is pointing here. Okay? Because this is the latest data you just stored in. Okay? Can you see that? Let me circle this. So 2 is the new data 4, 2, 4, 2, then new data 4, 10, 10. So at this particular moment, this 10 is the latest one you just stored. Yes?
During the lecture, you said after store the 10 inside, the pointer should be pointing to the next address.
Radio assignment is not a big difference.
Okay.
I think it requires you to point to the last data. I mean the latest data, not the empty location. Basically, next one is the oldest data. This one is the latest data. You see, this 4 is the oldest data at this moment.
So after the latest data put in, then the pointer will move on.
No, when next time you come in, you increase your pointer. Okay, that's only a small difference. Either you increase the pointer, then you store, or you store, then you increase the pointer. It's not a big deal. Okay? So what I'm saying here is your pointer should remember the latest data. Now, for this case, is this 10. Okay? And what is n value for this case, for this moment? What is n value? What is n value?
3.
Any other answers? What is n value for this? For time 1? This one?
2, 3, 4, 5, 1.
Huh?
1. Because after.
It should be 5. Come on, have you read your assignment 1? Your requirements. Once it's 5, it will remain 5. Because you are using the 5 latest data to do the calculation. I just said it, I think I just said it here. Okay? You only reset your n equals to 1 when reset become 1. Okay? When reset is 1, when somebody tell you that you should reset, then your n becomes 1. You can't recount from 1. Otherwise, once it's reached to 5, it will stay 5 because you are going to use that n values for your calculation. That's why here, as I mentioned, your CBPTR and the CBCTR, they are also in the memory. That's why at this particular moment, where my highlight is, your CBPTR's value is 10000210. That is this address. Okay, so here is here. You need to remember this address. Okay, you need to remember it. And also for your CBCTR, basically your n value, later on you are going to use it for calculation, it should be 5. Okay, so this shows you how memory looks like at this particular moment. Give you an example. Okay, so here is your n. This is okay? Something else you need to know. As I mentioned, okay, this is your C program. If I zoom in, so okay, let's go through this quickly. So for the first time, when I equals to 0, you are going to jump into this loop, right? If I equals to 0, you are going to do this, right? And here you know that you are calling a function. And what is the value here? X0, which is the first data, right? So that is your X0, or we say 2. This 3 is a constant, okay? So if you look at the definition on top of this function here, actually this is your mean value, which means X bar in your formula. Okay, mean value is 3. What is the next argument? Reset. Here you give the constant 1. Okay, so here is your reset. And what's next? I know it's buffer. You give the name buffer, but what's the meaning of this? It's a pointer. By the definition, you know this location here, you are actually passing an address. Pointer means address, right? So here is basically the pointer of buffer. Okay? And imagine your buffer is, you know that is 5 slots here. And you have, that's it, this is the first slot, this is the 5th slot. And all of this you have an address. At each slot you have an address. Which address are you passing into it? You know, buffer is actually having 5 slots. This big area. But when you do int star buffer, means you are telling the other guy saying that, okay, I'm telling you the address of buffer. Which address are you telling him? The first one. Okay? So basically you are telling the address of the first location. Okay? And if you run this whole thing by the software, you do step into, step into, step into, step into. Remember, step into allows you to jump one step by one step. Right? Step into, once you are here, you press step into one more time, you will jump into this function, which means you will go here, this valve. You will go into this valve. Okay? And at the beginning, it's empty. Your code should be constructed here. Okay? And while you are jumping from here, to here, basically you go through the line 13 if you have something there. Okay, you are jumping into the first line of this program. While you are jumping, actually there are some registers involved to create this bridge, this link. Okay, but actually we don't. There are some registers. Okay, but which are the specific registers involved into this? You can figure it out, but at this moment, just imagine we don't know exactly which register. Okay? So, what I'm saying here is when you jump from C to assembly, your registers, some of your registers come in and create this link so that you can jump from here to here. And imagine you write your code and you need to jump back. Correct? You need to jump back. Imagine you are using the same bridge. You build a bridge. Now you use the same bridge to go back. Okay? You need to, what I'm saying here is you need to remember this bridge so that later you can come back. If you forget this path, you won't be able to jump back successfully. Okay? So, to remember this bridge, how you remember this bridge is you should keep these registers as their values. For example, if let's say R5 is one of the register contributing on this bridge. And for him to build a bridge, he get a value, let's say 38. There are some other registers as well. Okay? So those registers, the data they are holding actually means this link. Okay? So when you jump back, you need to make sure that your R5 is 38. And also other registers still keep the value when they are at this status. Otherwise, you are not able to jump back. You get the idea? There might be not only R5, some others. R5, maybe R6, R7, R10, R8. Okay? So they are holding some values, and those values are used to remember this path. So later on, in order to be able to come back, your R5 should get back 38. Your R7 should get back its own value. Your R10 should get back its own value, so that the bridge is still there. Okay? But how to keep all this value? Are you changing them? When you write your code here, are you changing them?
Yeah.
You know that here you are going to do a bunch of things like move R5, 10, and then like add or compare. There are only 13 registers you can use. You are definitely going to modify some registers. Correct? So let's say if originally R5 is 38, but somehow here you change the R5 value. That's the problem. When you finish this, you are not able to jump back. You get the idea? So that's why we need something at the very beginning line and the very end line. So basically R0 all the way to R12, those are the resources you can use. Just like if you buy a computer, you buy an Intel processor that is dual core or one core, single core, that is how much you can use. Same thing here. You have limit number of registers you can use here. Correct? And before you even start to use them, some of them are holding useful data. Can you see that? Some of them are holding useful data. And you know that you are going to mess them up. Then what can you do? You save all this useful data to some other location first. Okay? Just like you are opening a Word file, you have some useful data on your Word file. Now I'm giving you new data and I ask you to delete your current data and write my information. Are you just delete or erase or overwrite? No, right? You select, copy your existing data in the Word, open another Word, copy it to that location and save it over there. And then you start typing in. Correct? Same thing here. Okay? Before you start to modify this data, you need to save this data to a safe location so that later you can just copy over. When you finish your work, you copy over. Okay? So that's location, that's particular location for us to save this data is stack. That's why at the very, very beginning of your program, you should have push among the registers. What register should you push? Depending on what registers you are going to mess up. Someone just used 2 registers. Let's say you are a genius. You use 2 registers to finish this work. You only need to remember those 2 registers. But let's say if you are using many registers to finish your work, you need to save them. You need to save all of them. Then later on copy over. Okay? So let's say here, just give an example. Let's say here, you are using, let's say register 4, 5, 6. Let's say you only use 3 registers. What you need to do is at very, very beginning, you need to push them. R4 all the way to R6. Then their values actually goes to a safe location. Okay, and now you can write whatever data whatever value to these 3 registers. But once you finish your work, you need to copy back those useful data by using pop. Okay? So the pair of this guarantees that you don't mess up this bridge. Okay? Again, your code may not look like this depending on what registers you use in between. Okay? What registers you have changed the value. Okay? So basically that's the answer of this. I have given the answer. Okay, so as I mentioned, you have push and pop here. And another question is how these 2 files are transferred data to each other. If you have read the assignment instruction, you know that already. So as I mentioned, this is a function you call, basically calling the assembly code, right? And you have 4 arguments passing into this function, right? Just like normal C function, these are the information you pass into that function, right? And okay, maybe I use this one. These are the data you pass into the function, and this is the data type returned by the function. Okay? If everything is written in C, you know how they pass, right? So the first one, when you write a local function, the first argument will be x, the second will be min, the third will be reset, the fourth will be the pointer of buffer. But what will happen if the function is written by assembly? You see, you are jumping into assembly. When you firstly go to the assembly, where are these 4 data? They are basically stored in R0, R1, R2, R3 in this sequence. Okay? So that's how C program pass data into assembly. Okay? So at the beginning, as I mentioned here, you can write the comments like your R0 is basically the first argument from C. In this case, your xi. Okay? And your R1 is the second argument passed from C. What is that? Mean value. Okay? And you have R2 and R3. That's the initial states of these registers. Okay? And then you are going to do your work. And assume now you have calculated everything, you calculated x squared already. So basically this function, you should calculate s squared. And then you need to basically pass this s squared value back here. Okay? Again, actually back to this location. Then how to pass data from assembly to C? You need to save the data into R0. So basically, in the end, whatever data in the R0 will be the return value to C. Okay? That's why here you have an integer, because your register values, the register content is always integer. Okay, you cannot calculate the decimal, float number in this case, because the data is coming from R0. Okay, so this is something you need to know. Okay? And I have one more slide helping you figure out the logic. Okay? So now basically you need to construct here. What should you do? Let me write it here. When you firstly jump into this ASM, these are the 4 things you know. Right? Is everyone with me now? Or everyone get lost, then I just leave you guys work alone. Okay, so what I'm saying here is just like your tutorial tool. Okay, I don't know how your tutor went through the question, but whoever in my group, I'm actually giving the logic to solve the entire problem. I then just convert your logic line by line to instructions. Okay, so that's how programmers do. Okay, so it's better to draw a flowchart. Let's say at the beginning, okay, this is a moment when you firstly jump into ASM. What should you do first? When you jump into this, you basically don't know anything except this 4 information. Okay? Which means you only know that, okay, let me write here. Your R0 is your xi. Your R1 is your x bar. R2 is the reset. and R3 is pointer to buffer.
先让左而已。
You only know this. Okay? And I mean in your code you also need to declare those two variables, okay? Dot LCOMM CBPTR dot LCOMM CBCTR. As I said, this asks you to reserve some space in the memory. Okay, I hope those who are taking videos, your ears are open. Okay, you are not just taking video, you are following me. Okay, otherwise there is no point to do that. Okay, I may take 1 hour, you take video for 1 hour, but go back to fully understand that you need 5 hours. Okay? What? I mean, you can take videos, but make sure you are with me, okay? So here, what I'm saying here is you are basically reserving some space in the memory so that you keep recall. Remember, this is the pointer that pointing to your basically the latest data you just stored. You need to remember that location so that next data coming in, you know where to put it. Okay? And this one is your n. You need to remember your n value so that you know to calculate s squared, what should be the n value you should use. Okay? So these two lines should be there. So basically, these are all you only know this information. Okay? You don't know anything else. You even don't know, when you jump into this, you even don't know how many data in your buffer already. Okay, you need to figure it out during this process. But at the beginning, you don't know. So what's the first thing? What's the first thing? If you have no idea, go back to the example. What's the first thing? What's happened at this very, very beginning? At this very, very beginning, how do you know this is beginning? Reset. You see where is your reset? Here. This is something you know. Right? You just look at your R2 value. Okay? Then you should make decision based on that. Because reset equal to 1 or reset equal to 0 behaves quite different. Right? So the first thing you need to check is your reset. Okay? So if, let's say, reset equals to 1, what should you do? If reset equals to 1, look at here, what should you do? You need to put this number into your buffer and then do the calculation. Correct? So basically, what's happening here is you should, let me use the word store, because when you put data into the memory, it's called store, right? So you store xi. It may not be 1, it may be some other values, for example, this case. Okay? It may not be the first one. Okay? So store this one to memory, to buffer. Which location? The first location. Okay? That's how this happened. Can you see this one and this one? Especially this one. Okay? 2 is supposed to be here. If reset is not 1, but in here. We reset everything. Okay? So you need to store R, whatever value, basically in this case, the value in your R0. You need to store that into buffer 0. What else you need to do? Okay, let's draw in this way. Everything in sequence. Store this. Let's say this is the first step. What's next? Too general. As I said, it's too general. I know it's calculate. This whole thing is calculate. How to calculate? Mean value is here. Look at here. What did we do here? We are defining variables. These are variables, right? Variable means you need to change them. If you don't change them, you declare it as constant. Why you declare it as variable? Because you want to change it. Every time you need to change this because this, as I said, this is pointing to the current location. This is your current n value. So here, what should you do? You need to make your CBPTR equals to what? CBPTR is what? Pointer, address. So you need to make this one holding this address because this is the location you just stored your value. Right? This location, buffer 0. Buffer 0's location. Where to find buffer 0? Actually, here you already need buffer 0, otherwise you cannot store the number there. This is quite general. I can still split this up. Split this up means you need to get the buffer 0 location first, then you store. Remember the ASM?
Is it load first?
Yeah, you need to use the equal sign to load the address, then you store, just like the basic ASM basic for answer. Okay? So there are actually two steps here. So again here, basically this one and this one are similar. You need to find where is buffer 0. Where is buffer 0? Look at what you know. Where is buffer 0? R3. Starting pointer to buffer 5. So your buffer 5 is like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is buffer 0, this is buffer 1, this is buffer 2, 3, 4. I'm saying R3 is the address of this one. So basically R3 is this one. Okay? Can you see that? R3 is holding the starting address. Okay, so you need to give this address to the CBPTR, which is in the memory. Okay, so again, here you have multiple steps within it. And also you need to update this one. CBCTR should get what value? N equal to 1, right? So here you need to set, or you need to store 1 into CBCTR. Okay? So basically, this is okay. By now, we finished modifying our memory. That's enough we need to do for this particular case. We set equal to 1 to modify the memory. And the next step is basically the calculation. We haven't calculated yet. We just update some parts in the memory, some location in the memory. Okay? So for calculation, what should we do? So this is another, okay, so from here to here, basically you finish all the, we say, memory modification. But from this moment onwards, you are doing calculation. To calculate, this is the equation x squared n, this one xi minus x squared. Right? So for this particular case, what you need to do basically is s squared equals to, what is the bottom value? N or 1 or CBCTR's value. Okay? So it's CBCTR's value. Top. Where is R1? R1 is either in R0, right? For this case, it's in R0. Or we can just get it from the memory because now R1 is here. Sorry, X1 is here. It's stored into that. Okay? So what you need to do is, basically on top here, you need to take out data from memory, basically pointing by CBPTR. CBPTR is here now. Now your CBPTR is here. Okay? And this time you just need to take one data because you know n is 1. Okay? Then basically what you need to do is you need to store, you need your R0 to get this value. Because you need to jump back. Remember, when you jump back, the data you want to pass back to C must be stored in R0. Okay? So this complete this particular case when reset equals to 1. Okay? This is the shortest path. The other side is much longer than that. When reset equal to 0. Okay? When reset equals to 0. Okay, so let me show this page to you. So what I'm talking about here is condition 1. When reset equals to 1. Okay? When reset equals to 1, you are going to put whatever data coming in this case in your R0 to this particular location. Imagine here is your buffer. Okay? To this particular location. And you need to update your CBCTR. Sorry, CBCTR didn't keep the name consistent. Basically, it's your count. Basically, it's your n. You need to set your n equals to 1. You need to set this particular pointer pointing to buffer 0, which is this location. You need to set your pointer pointing here. Okay? That's the action item you need to do for this particular case. And when you are doing calculation, you only use this data to do calculation. And ignore whatever data in the other slot of buffer. There might be data there. Okay? Remember this case? This case, you have two 10, 10, 10, 10 here, but you are not using this 10 for calculation. You only use this one for calculation. Okay? So that's the action item for reset equals to 1. Okay, you only take care of this data. Okay, ignore the rest for calculation. And there's another case, condition 2, when reset equals to 0. But for this case, there are some other possibilities. It's not only this, not like this, only one way to do that. But for reset equal to 0, you have multiple cases. For example, when your buffer is still not full, means you are still filling up your buffer is not full, you haven't reached n equals to 5 yet. Okay, so for this particular case, like this, from when the first data come in until this whole thing is occupied, all these cases belong to this condition, when your buffer is not full yet. What do you need to do? You need to increase your n by 1, right? N equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are doing same action. Your CBCTR, sorry about the name, but basically the n, you should plus. They are increasing. I mean, the value is increasing by 1 every time. Okay? And your CBPTR should increase by 4. Because you need to point here, the next one you need to point here, next one you need to point here, point here, point here, until you point here. You are feeling this, now you are here, 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 here. You see, for this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cases, they are doing same actions. Okay? So that's this particular case when buffer is not full. But when buffer is full, okay, when buffer is full, again, there are two possibilities. Which means, for example, this can be the case when buffer is full. Buffer is full already. And your next data coming in should go where? First location. Okay? So that is basically this condition. Means, you see, how to know you are in this situation? When you realize your pointer is here, you know for next step you need to go here. Okay? So that is when your CBPTR is pointing to buffer 4, which means the bottom one. Okay? What you need to do is, as I mentioned, for all this case, when buffer is full, your n remain as 5. Okay? If reset is not 1. Okay? So CBCTR, basically your n, CBCTR, so n, they are 5. But for this case, you need to reset your pointer here. Okay? Which means new data coming in, you should store it here. New data coming in, you need to store it here. And your pointer should reset to the very first location. But there is another case. When you are updating, let's say your number is here. The moment I show you just now, this one, remember this particular case? Your new data just stored into here. Can you see that? Your buffer is still full. Your n is still 5. Your n has reached 5 already. But now your pointer is here. Your pointer is in the middle. You're still feeling, basically you are refreshing your buffer. So for this case, your pointer should +4. Because you are still in the middle, you haven't reached to the end yet. But what I'm saying here is there are, I think this concludes all the possibilities. But what I'm saying here is your logic should be able to do all these cases. If not, you miss out something. Your result won't be correct. Okay? Different people can solve the problem with different logic. But everyone should consider all the possibilities. Okay? So you may not satisfy me, like me classifying the case like this. You want to classify in the other way also can. But what I'm saying here is all these possibilities should be considered by your logic. Okay? Now you know how much work you need to do. Okay? I mean, I'm not expecting everyone like almost finish at this stage, but I was expecting everyone has thought about this. But seems no. Many people also like don't know n should remain 5 once it's full. I'm shocked. Yeah. Okay, so please, you don't have much time. You only have 1 week. Next week will be our assessment. Okay, and you're supposed to upload your code and the report before next week 6 p.m. Okay, so there will be a Saturday clinic, but I don't want to answer questions like how to start. Okay, I want to see people have at least some of the part. For example, some of you finished this case. Or some of you maybe haven't started writing the code, but you have the full picture of your flowchart also can. Okay? But if you have nothing and you don't know how to start, that's not good. Okay?